What's up guys? My name is Andy. Now that I've got a lot of the interior components done that I wanted to do this truck, I did the floor pans, you guys probably saw the video on that. I just did the door sill. Now I want to get this interior put back together, and that's going to include the floor mat piece that's going to go on here. And while I'm here, this shifter boot is all tore up and I think it's time to replace that. I got a new shifter knob I want to put in here, get rid of whatever the handle that is. I'm going to take the radio out of the truck because I'm not going to listen to it while I'm driving this thing. So I've got a block off plate for that. Got to put the steering wheel back on, got to put the seat back in, and just kind of get this truck, you know, for now, get the interior done and get it put back together so that I can take the truck out and drive it. And while I'm here, I'm also going to replace this seal that goes around the gas tank tube. It's kind of dry and rotted. I don't want anything to leak inside the truck, so let's get this guy replaced too. I think the easiest thing to get done first is this shifter boot. Let's get this guy out of here and get it replaced. And it's just a handful of Phillips screws. We'll get these guys out of here. And then this guy should just slide right off the top. Yeah, comparing the two, this is going to be a much nicer piece to have in the truck. Look at this thing, it's just breaking off. It's done. Let's get it out of here. Let's get all this icky stuff out of here. All right, and the new one just goes right in place. Oh, that looks a lot better. These screws in here. There we go. All right, much better. So the next thing I want to install is this jute backing that goes on the floor pans, over the transmission tunnel, and on here. And this is going to go down underneath that mat that I put in. And we're going to use some adhesive spray glue stuff to spray on here and then spray on this and get it to stick. However, I jumped the gun. I put this shifter boot on first, but I need to take this off because we need to take this shift lever out. Now I could just trim this. Could just trim this stuff so that it fits around the shifter boot, and that's not going to be an issue. But when it comes time to putting that flooring in, I probably need to have this out of the way. Yeah, and for this, I think I can get away with just slicing this out for the shifter boot. I did want to point out on this backing stuff, there's kind of a round cutout notch. That's designed to go around the foot activated high beam switch, so we know which way this goes, this way versus flipped over, and that's roughly where that goes. Now you may find that this stuff is kind of hard to cut. A good sharp razor blade will go a long way, but this stuff, you know, in the end, is still can be difficult. Yeah, it's not perfect. This will need to do, because this is all gonna be covered by that flooring anyways. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to fold this over and spray along here, and then on the bottom side of the mat, lay that down, and spray on there, and spray this, lay that down, then come back over here and do this side. I'm gonna fold it here in thirds, so I know that this third will be the part that I spray for that, so then for here, I know that that's gonna be that section. I'm just gonna use some of this 3M Super 77 adhesive spray. Spray some on there. Let that tack up for a second. Oh yeah. All right, let me lay this back down. Okay, now we'll do this section here. Okay, there we go. And these already have the slices in them to kind of give you that relief cut for this contoured shape of the floor pan. There we go. If you need to, I'm gonna clean this up just a little bit here around this shifter boot, but that will work. All right, now we need to take the shifter boot out because we got to get this shifter lever out of here so that I can put that flooring over and cut out right where I need it to be so it's more exacting. All right, the secret to this, there's a pin right here and right here. We leave those there, but this cap We need to push this down and twist, and the cap and the shift lever should come up in one piece. All right, now what I did is kind of hard to show. I put these vice grips on here, push down and let the teeth grab onto the edge here of this cup so that I can push down and twist. And you can see that shape it creates, and then we can just lift this right out. And you can't quite see down inside there, but we're gonna go ahead and just put, I put like one of these gloves around the edge here just to kind of seal it off so stuff doesn't get inside the transmission. Then I can put that mat over. There. Just enough to keep the dust from getting inside there. So the next tricky part is getting this mat laid down in the right spot. Now, the truck that I have has a high hump or high bump, and then I have the fuel tank in the cab. So you select all that stuff when you're picking your mat for your truck. So, but it does come contoured. You can kind of see right here how this is shaped like that. That's designed to fit kind of in this pocket of the footwell. Same thing on this side. And this thing's got a raised section that's going to fit over that transmission tunnel. So it is kind of, tells you kind of roughly where it's going to go right off the bat. And as you start to lay things out, you get a sense of what you're working with. Now, they say in the instructions, you need to take this out of the box and let it lay out in 72 degrees, you know, in your house basically, or a heated garage for 48 hours. And to not put it in direct sunlight to heat this thing up. I may have put it in the sun for just a little bit, just to warm it up a little. It's a little colder today when I'm doing this, but for the most part, it gives me a little more flexibility with this mat. It is a lot easier to move around since it's a little warm, right? And they say to start in the back and work your way forward. In fact, I'm going to do that first because that's going to dictate a lot of where everything sits. So if we move this up so that these pockets are starting to do their part. As this fits back here, I believe this is supposed to go underneath the gas tank. I'm not going to remove the gas tank. I'm just going to cut it off there at the gas tank. I'm never going to take this out of the truck. I'm not going to move it somewhere else where I need to have that covering. So I'm just going to cut off the back of this mat that would go back there and just leave it level with the gas tank. Now I've got it pretty much where I want it. And there's also, it's hard to see on the camera, but again, there's some metal contour pieces in the floor pan of the truck that aligns with the shape inside this mat. So again, helps you get an idea where things are going to go. So from here, they say to cut out a hole for where the seat bolts go, and we can put the seat bolts in and then use that as a locator so that the mat won't shift once we put those in place. And then you can start pushing things out and get, the door sill trim cut done and then that kind of stuff. So let's start with that. And I know there's 2 bolts right here. Again, just kind of making sure that the contours of the mat meet the contours of the metal. And I'm just going to use a punch to just find the first bolt hole for the seat bolts. There we go. There's one. That means the other one's going to be right about there. Okay, cool. So I'm just going to slice open a spot. Careful you don't cut too deep because you might cut your metal on your floor, and if you've got a nice paint, you don't want to chew that up. There, now that's just good enough for what we're doing here. I can grab 2 seat bolts, put them in there, move on to the next one. And they're just like that. I got those bolts in there. It's going to hold it in place. It's not going to be, super snug fit, but it's enough to just keep it from shifting around. Also, I've got a stud here for, I believe it's the tire changing tools. So I just cut a little slice in there for that to poke through. Now I'm going to go ahead and go to the other side and get those other seat bolts cut open. All right, cool. So now I got these 2 done, and this thing's starting to lock in place, which is what I wanted. So now I'm going to cut this back piece off, and I've got these seat belts that are going to come through here. So I got to make sure I be careful, don't cut those up, and I got to cut around the seat belts, these parts here. So I'm just going to carefully do that. And depending on what kind of seat bolts you have in your truck, you may have to cut a little differently. And again, having a sharp blade will go a long way right now. This is where I can pull those seat belts through. Yeah, and I'm gonna have to cut around them. And all I did is just cut a little piece so that it can just go underneath the, see, just like that, there. And the seat's gonna be over, you're not gonna see it, but there's no reason why we can't put a little bit of effort into making it look nice. Again, another little piece. Push that down. There's another little piece right here. There's like a little valve or something in the floor right here, so I'm just cutting around that. Also, don't forget, if you have the in-tank or the in-cab fuel tank, I got to cut around the fuel line real quick too. Cutting this last piece off of here. I need to do a little bit better job trimming around this seat belt. There we go. So next I'm going to trim the mat so that it's long enough to go underneath the door sill, but not too long where it gets in the way. So this piece right here, the door sill is going to grab over the top of that. So really from this part right here to here, that's about 1 inch wide. I'd like to cut my mat so that it's somewhere along this edge here, so it'll be captured by the door sill trim, but not past it where it'll be exposed and it'll look like I didn't do a good enough job cutting it. So like right here, if I were to cut it basically right here and follow this all the way along up until I get to this corner, then I need to go in the corner and I'm going to follow just inside of the kick panel here and run that up to the end of it. Okay, now you can see where I cut. It's not a perfect line, but that's okay because that door sill trim is going to cover it. It's going to be pretty wide along here, so it'll definitely cover that up. And same thing there, cut that edge and then start to get this cut. We're going to leave this top piece because I'm going to go over there and do that door sill on the other side first. So now I got the driver's side door sill all cut and good to go. I do have one of those floor activated high beam switches, and they provide the little boot piece that you can cut out a hole in the rubber flooring here to go right over that so that it's kind of an outline of it. I'll do that here in a minute, but I'm noticing that I've got way more mat than what I need to go up here. Now I've got one of those firewall insulated things, and I just need to go high enough to get underneath that. I'm pretty much right there, so I've got all this extra, so I can cut all that off. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut off, I'm not gonna cut all of it off, cut off some of it, and then just kind of give myself some extra space, tuck it underneath there, and if I notice that I have a little bit too much, I can cut a little bit more, but if I cut too much right now, I won't be able to get it out, get it underneath the pedals and hide everything. So if I start here in the middle, cut this much, and that will fold underneath there. But as it wraps around the contours, I want to give myself a little bit more meat to work with. See, I can already tell that I've got way more than I need because of where this insulation stops. But this is just a good starting point. Let's just get this cut trimmed and then we can go from there. Now there's a natural kind of crease or line in here. I'm cutting below that because I know I don't need to, yes, I still have plenty to go up there. So before I do that, I guess I got to get this addressed. So this is where that shifter is. And if I just cut right around it, that shifter will poke through. But what I want to do is cut a little bit more than that because I've got that shifter boot that I got to put on here. Yeah, I know I need to cut more, but at least it kind of gives me an idea of where I can cut. Now we're getting closer. Now this is where having a warmer mat, warmer day would come in handy because this stuff is so stiff and it's hard to move when it's getting cold like this. So I can come over here and I can trim this now, and then I know where this high beam switch is going to be. Cool, perfect. Now I'm just going to trim up this edge right here. So now that I've got this mostly where I want, trimmed up and where things are going to fit, this will relax a little bit and kind of fit the contour as time goes on, especially if you leave this truck outside. It'll start to warm up a little bit. But what I want to do now is I'm going to make the holes for my trim of that shifter boot. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to find the hole, and then I'm going to heat up a drill bit and push it through this plastic mat piece and make a hole, just a heated hole. It'll melt it and it'll make a nice hole, so when I put that trim on there, I'm not trying to find that hole through the trim and all that kind of stuff. So right here, so there's the hole for that first screw. Don't want to do this with bare hands. We're going to put this in here, heat this up, and we'll make a hole. There. Now it's kind of hard to see on because it's on this side of the thing and your camera's over there, but I already got one hole and it's nice, good to go. Now you're gonna get some plastic, this matte stuff on the end of your drill bit. It's not good to breathe, so having good ventilation is probably a good idea. There, hole number 2, 3 more to go. All right, now you can see the holes. We're good to go. We can go ahead and put that shifter boot back on and install it the same way that we took it off, by pushing in there and spinning that around, and it'll lock into that cap and hold that shifter in place. All right, so those are all in. I got the mat tucked underneath this firewall shield thing. It's pretty beat up. I need to replace that, but for now, at least it's tucked underneath there. Also, when you put this shifter in, I should have mentioned, when you take this out, it needs to be in neutral. If not, the shifter fork dog things and the shifter lever won't line up right, and so it can be kind of a pain if that's not in neutral. Anyways, just push it in and twist that cap and it'll put it back in place. And then you could have gone a couple different routes. I put this shifter boot up on top of the floor mat here. My fear was that if I cut the floor mat around like maybe this bottom rib, it would look kind of pooched and it would stick up and it wouldn't look right. This doesn't look bad, but it doesn't look fantastic. For now, it'll work. It gets everything cleaned up, and really this is already a massive improvement over what I had in the truck to begin with, so we can go with that. All right, moving on to the next project. I don't need the stereo in the truck right now, and I'm gonna remove it out of there and put one of these plates in there. This is the factory block-off plate that if you would have bought a truck without a radio. I'm gonna put this in there. I spray painted it black. It came this green color. It was all faded and looked pretty bad. It doesn't match anything in the truck, and the downside is this black is so new and fresh, it doesn't match the black that I have in here now, so I might have been better off just leaving it green. Anyways, we're gonna get this guy out of here. We'll just pull these knobs off, and then these sleeves just thread off of here. And then there's 2 Phillips screws in the top holding this trim plate in. Now there's no reason to get rid of this stuff, but I don't need it right now. I'm just gonna use a 1/2-inch deep socket to loosen up these nuts that are holding these shaft style radio, I believe is what they call this. Now these radios are designed to just come in from the back. The problem is there's typically not a lot of room back here, and if you've got your heater duct or something in the way, it may be difficult to get the radio out. Oh my gosh, this is so much work just to get this guy out of here. When I was taking this out, I thought I had a pretty clear path to come down that side. I ended up taking the ashtray out, not getting it done, taking the glove box and coming out this way. I should have known that to begin with, but anyways, now I gotta put everything back in the car so I could put this new plate on right here. So the way this installs, there's these little threaded, these nuts are actually designed to just cut into the plastic of these studs on here. And they'll just fit right in the holes of where the shaft style radio piece goes through. And then we put these nuts on from the back. I'm gonna have to take this back out so I can reach this piece. Oh my gosh, that took entirely way too much effort. I think I should have just taken the glove box out. It would have been easier to do the whole thing. I could have left that in and it would have been fine. But anyways, now we're in. I think it looks good. Again, it's a little bright, or new blackish for the other faded blacks that we have in the truck, but I think it looks good, and I'm not gonna listen to the radio while I'm driving this truck anyway, so I'm not worried about it. I like it. Moving on to the next project. All right, the next thing I wanna do is get this old dried out seal out of there, and I think the easiest way to do this is we'll just take that clip off of the hose here and slide this tube out. Then I can get this seal out of here, put the new one in, slide the tube back in, hook up the clamp. I think we'd be good to go. And here's just a quick comparison of how soft and squishy and good to go. And this one's just, it's hard. All right, let's get this new one. Actually, let's clean this up first, then I'll put the new one in. This is one of the downsides of doing this by yourself, trying to get this bench seat in there without scratching up your paint. Putting these bolts in can sometimes be a pain, trying to reach everything. Plus, I don't think I have the seat tracks aligned right. I gotta mess with that a little bit. There we go. I think that's better. And these back two bolts are easier to get to than the ones underneath the seat. So we'll do these guys first, get everything locked in. All right. All right, now these front bolts are a little harder to get to because of the way they are underneath the seat here, and you can't get like a driver on them easily. So it's a little more patience with these and you'll get them. All right. Cool. All right. Now the seat is in. Yay. Oh yeah. Much better. Now to wrap up the flooring, I want to put this door sill trim in here. It's a brand new piece. I didn't want to reuse the one that I had here. It was all tore up and dirty and scratched and stuff. So I put this new one in, and thinking about it now, I should have gotten new fasteners for this, but I'm going to use the old ones that I had. And if you were savvy enough to put holes in the flooring to know where the bolt holes are, or the screw holes are, you'll be good to go. However, the nice thing is when you put this in place, it's going to mostly line up with where those holes are. You might have to use a pick to kind of poke around until you find it, but because I wasn't thinking ahead, I have to find them now instead of find them earlier. And put the screw in for this first piece because it'll kind of set the alignment of this thing, front to back of the truck, and kind of start to lock things in place for you. All right, so there's the first one. And again, once you get one of these, it will force these holes a little more. So for putting the screws in for the rest of them, should be a little bit easier. And eventually, you'll get all 6 of them in place. All right, cool. All right, we're getting down to the end here. Could put this steering wheel back on. Oh, I haven't sat in this truck since I bought the truck because I have had the seat out the whole time. All right, let's put this on here. And it's just using a 15/16 deep socket for the steering wheel nut. Now, I don't know if the steering wheel is aligned with the truck, but I need to do an alignment anyways, so I'll worry about, this part down the road. Okay, cool, that's on. And the last piece is just a nice little decorative upgrade. I don't really know what's going on with the shift lever here. I don't know if this is a particular style or maybe this means something to somebody. I don't really know. I don't really care because this is boring and not exciting. So I just got me just a generic shifter ball to put on here, and it's got a little threaded insert to change the thread size so that it matches what I've got here. Put that on there and then thread this on. All right, so I'm already noticing there's a gap here. I could probably get a spacer or something. When you buy a generic shifter ball, I guess this is what I get, but that is what we're gonna get. Cool, yay. Oh, that's much better than whatever this thing was. Woohoo! So guys, that's it. That was, ultimately this video was supposed to be about installing that MIP, that rubberized flooring. That was what I wanted to do, but while I was here, I figured I'd get a couple of things done. Everything fits, everything looks good. This bench seat was actually part of the deal that I got when I bought this truck. I got the other one sitting in the bed. I got to get rid of that one. It's all tore up and messed up. So this is a much better unit. So I'm excited to have that in there. Of course, the steering wheel's back on. I haven't had that on there for a while. And that shift knob's kind of a nice little upgrade. And that radio blockout plate is kind of fun too. So one thing on this flooring stuff, it's colder. I don't know, when I was doing this, probably 50 degrees or so. It's a little too cold for this flooring. So I had a sunny day. I set it outside in the sun. They say not to do that, but it did help warm it up a little bit, and it made it a lot more pliable and easier to get in the truck and kind of fit it on everything. It's molded, so it will kind of fall into place, but right now it's so stiff that it'd be a lot harder to put that in if it wasn't warm like it was. So that worked out pretty good. And this is better than I thought it would be. I thought this was gonna be kind of a cheesy looking chain. I mean, what was in there was this kind of same flooring, but I almost put carpet in, but I'm glad I put this in. This is gonna be a nice little change. It cleans it up. Of course, I got the new door sills, and everything looks good on the truck. Now I can get back to under the engine bay and get some more stuff going under there. So, all right guys, if you liked the video, give me a thumbs up. And if you subscribe, I appreciate it because it helps my channel out, and we'll see you in the next one.